Hello, my name is Isaiah Berry, and for my profile piece, I will be talking about veteran homelessness. Within this video, there's an interview that I conducted with Gene Roberts, who is the program coordinator at the Veterans Transitional Living Center. It is located in downtown El Paso and is very easy to access. The living center is very nice, comfortable, and clean. The staff and veterans on the premises are very friendly and kind. The living center is able to house 20 veterans at all times. Me and Gene Roberts went over some tough questions related to veteran homelessness, which you're going to want to stay around for. But first, what is veteran homelessness? Veteran homelessness is when a person who has served in the armed forces ends up homeless or without any living situation. Veterans are 50% more likely to become homeless than any other Americans due to poverty, lack of support networks, and dismal living conditions. At the end of the interview, there will be information about a survey I conducted that was targeted towards homeless veterans in our community. I was able to interact with these local veterans and collect some data about them. But first, here's the interview. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Your name, where you're from.
My name is Gene Roberts. I'm a retired Army paratrooper. I was born in Eastern Kentucky. Enlisted when I was 17, so I've been around the block a little while. I retired from the Army in '95, and I've done all sorts of jobs since then. I've worked with the Census Bureau. I've worked with the Department of Criminal Justice here in Texas. Just stumbled onto this ad one day, and so I've been doing this now for 7 years.
How have you liked it?
Well, I'm still here. That's something. Here, you're working with individuals who need your help. Veteran homelessness is pretty important right now to the VA, and the VA historically has not been the most transparent organization. It's one of the largest organizations in the country, but since 9/11 and especially the latest events that we've had to deal with in Iraq and Afghanistan, there's been a lot more illumination.
Okay.
And so the VA seems to be trying to, at least from all appearances, clean up its act and actually serve the veterans.
What's your job here?
Well, I'm actually the Director of Veterans Programs for the Opportunity Center for the Homeless.
Okay.
So I have, up until the end of September, I had 4 programs. We lost a grant for one of them, so I am responsible for 3 programs. I'm responsible for the Emergency Veterans Shelter over off of McGoffin. I'm responsible for this Veterans Transitional Living Center, and I'm also responsible for a rapid rehousing program, which allows us to address veterans with families.
Why do you believe veterans become homeless?
You have alcoholism, you have drug addiction, you have mental health issues, you have domestic violence or domestic issues, financial issues. So there's not just one avenue to homelessness. There are a variety of reasons people become homeless, and the factors aren't singular. Usually you're dealing with 2 or 3 or 4 different factors. You know, if you have an addiction issue and it's drugs, which means that you're spending every penny you have on drugs, then it's drugs and finance. There's no single easy, cookie cutter answer to these things.
What are some services that you provide here at the Living Center?
Specifically, the first thing we do is outreach. In other words, we have to identify the individuals who are homeless, and we do that through, I have an outreach coordinator whose job is to constantly be on the phone with other shelters, to be on the phone with the Opportunity Center, to be on the phone with the VA, because they're going to refer people to us. Once we have them in here, we have to identify what services they need. Everyone goes through a triage. What are they dealing with? Now, the one difference between the military and civilian world is that sometimes when we're dealing with traumatic brain injuries or post-traumatic stress disorder, civilian people deal with that as well, just not from the same circumstances. Ours are generally combat related or something related to the military, but we have to identify what the needs are. What got the person into homelessness in the first place? And we have to start addressing those. Primarily our job is to get these folks housed. If there's alcoholism or if there's an addiction issue, then we need to get treatment. We work hand in hand. We have a VA liaison social worker, and for now it's a she, and between her and my case manager and me, we try to find a strategy for dealing with each individual in person here. If it's, is it counseling? Do they need to go into a live-in facility? Treatment-wise, is it just finances? Are there finances available? Is the person eligible for benefits that he may not be receiving? Resume writing. These are all small things. Clothes. Getting clothes for them. Getting them to start doing things on a basis that is what we consider normalcy.
What do you think as a society that we could do to help out?
Here in El Paso, the community is very supportive. We have some tremendous partners from the city of El Paso and the county of El Paso who have labeled us the veteran capital of the country. We've got the Elks Club, the Brotherhood of the Elks, that phenomenal partners. We have the Veterans Court here in the county that helps us treat veterans who otherwise would have a criminal record without their assistance. We have the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Club. We've got a number. Lowe's home improvement stores have worked with us on donations, and so that's the good thing. The community as a whole. We have a very proactive community.
My last question is, if you have all the money in the world, what would you use it for?
From this perspective,
yeah,
and I say it like this, I have 2 shelters. Those shelters are, we have demands that we have to make on the clientele. There are veterans that we can't help. Those are the areas where we lack the resources. We need like a wet shelter.
Okay.
And to me, I believe that we should have in West Texas, because we don't have one in West Texas. We have them in other places, but with an unlimited budget, you could have step levels. You serve men, you serve women, you serve the LGBTQ community, you serve everyone, and you're able to give them more. You have a nurse, you have a doctor, and you're able to give them more one-on-one, assistance with their issues. Yeah. Psychologists being there, and then graduating from that wet shelter into a transitional center. And then if you could graduate from that transitional center into your own apartment in this, to me, it would all be in one area, like a communal area. You have apartments, you have houses, and you're addressing those issues. Just a walking distance from there, there's the counseling you need, there's the medical help you might need, everything is there. And that's what I would personally do. I would find that location and build this. I think the old Fort Bliss where Beaumont is would be awesome for that. A budget for outreach. The VA has really gone above and beyond to address veteran homelessness over the past year since I've been part of this. And veterans don't get help for 2 reasons. Primarily because they're unaware that the programs exist. So the budget, a budget for advertising and outreach to get, if you know a homeless veteran, you can get a hold of me. Mm-hmm. Hey, I've got a guy who lives out here. He says he's homeless. We're going to ask for some specifics. I can put him through a database. I can determine whether he's a veteran or not within just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So, but he has to know about us in order for us to help him. But then there are those who know about us, but won't ask for the help because they're, and this goes back to something we were just talking about, because they know that they're alcoholics and they don't want to stop.
Yeah.
So how do I help him? He doesn't want to give up his drinking. She doesn't want to give up, an addiction or being in an abusive relationship. So how do we help those folks if they won't? You got to come to us before we can help you. For my facilities, that's important, but if you have that wet shelter and you have that tier program, you'll be able to help more folks who are not being helped.
Yeah.
Simply for that reason.
Perfect. Thank you very much for answering my questions.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. For my survey, I decided to interview a total of 30 veterans within the El Paso community. For my first question, I asked, "Are you a veteran?" I decided on this question that way I could get a common denominator between all my respondees to make sure that all of them were veterans. 30 out of the 30 respondents said they were a veteran. For my second question, I asked the veterans how old they were. 11 of the respondents answered 25 to 34 years old. 7 of the respondents answered 35 to 44 years old. 4 of the respondents answered 45 to 54 years old. 5 of the respondents answered 55 to 64 years old. And only 3 respondents answered above 64 years old. For my third question, I asked the veterans, which gender were you? I asked this question in order to get the ratio of men and women of veterans within our community. 26 out of the respondents answered male, while 4 answered female. For my fourth question, I asked the veterans their marital status. 13 of the respondents said single or never married. 7 said they were separated. 3 said they were divorced. 4 said they were widowed. And 3 preferred not to say. For my fifth question that I asked the veterans, I asked, have you ever lived in a shelter? 24 of the respondents said they have, while 1 said they haven't, and 5 preferred not to say. For my sixth question, I asked the veterans, have you ever been homeless? 25 of the respondents said they have, while 2 said they haven't, and 3 preferred not to say. For my seventh question, I asked the veterans, do you have a disability? 16 of the respondents said yes, while 8 said they didn't, and 6 preferred not to say. For my eighth question, I asked the veterans, have you ever used government resources or services? 22 of the respondents said they have, while 4 said they haven't, and 4 preferred not to say. For my ninth question, I asked the veterans, do you believe the government is doing enough for veterans? 9 of the respondents said yes, the government is doing enough, while 16 of them said that the government was not doing enough, and 5 respondents preferred not to say. For my 10th question, I asked the veterans, do you believe veterans should be more recognized? 24 of the respondents said yes, while 4 said no, and 2 preferred not to say. For my 11th and final question, I asked the veterans, should veterans be homeless? 1 of the respondents said yes, while 25 said no, and 4 preferred not to say. Thank you for listening to my audio profile. Hope you learned some key information on why veteran homelessness is important. Hope you found the interview with Gene Roberts interesting as well. He is a great guy and has a great personality. I also hope you got some key takeaways from the data collected from the surveys.